Welcome to Heart to Talk, the podcast. I am the host and creator, Teresa Caesar. My intention for this podcast is to deliver to you wisdom, inspiration, and consciousness through solo episodes and conversations amongst insightful people. It is my greatest honor to bring to you talks that come from the heart. Hey loves, welcome back to another powerful episode. Before we dive in, I want to talk about something that we don't give ourselves enough credit for, or if at all, and that is the way we create our own luck. There's a difference between the person who walks through life saying, nothing ever works out for me, I am so unlucky, and believing that, versus the person who whispers, somehow things always work out for me, I'm so lucky. Psychologists have actually studied this. People who feel lucky tend to notice more opportunities, start more conversations, pave the way for their success, and stay in the game longer. So they end up with better outcomes, results, because their mindset just changes how they move and what they attract. In a decade-long study called The Luck Factor, psychologist Richard Wiseman followed hundreds of people who called themselves lucky or unlucky. The study found that the so-called lucky people weren't just born under a lucky star or on St. Patrick's Day. They were more relaxed, open, they trusted their intuition, and they were able to turn setbacks into stepping stones. However, the unlucky people were considered more tense and anxious, and that stress literally made them miss chances that were right in front of them. So when you say, I'm a lucky person, you're not lying to yourself. You're giving your brain a new filter. You start to see doors instead of walls. You start to move like someone who expects good things. And that expectation becomes a quiet, self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm bringing back one of my favorite conversations on this topic that I had in 2022 with the inspiring Peter Costa. Now, a little bit about Peter if you don't know him already. Peter P. Costa is a former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, president of Empire Executions, Inc., a boutique trading firm on the floor of the NYCE, a CNBC market analyst, and head of the Costa family office. Peter's also a sought after keynote speaker for numerous industry conferences and national business schools and devoted supporter of organizations like St. Jude and the Robin Hood Foundation. In this conversation, we talk about creating your own luck, spinning mistakes and failures into lessons and gold, and staying grounded in who you are and honoring your word, no matter what room you're in. So friends, let's jump into this powerful episode replay with the incredible Peter Costa. Welcome. I'm so excited to share you with this audience.
Well, Teresa, I'm actually honored to be here. I've listened to your podcast since I met you, and I've really found them very interesting and very uplifting. So I'm excited to be here.
We met a few months ago. You were visiting here in Tucson from New York through our beautiful friend, Natalie Fernandez, who's owner of Meridian Wealth Management. So that was just awesome, that connection that we made. I came in, sat by you, and the minute I heard you speak, I thought, this energy has to be on my podcast. You have lots of wisdom to share in your experience, and you have this awesome humor about it. So let's start with who you are.
I'm Peter Costa. I live in Long Island right now. I've been here for 60 some odd years. I went to the University of Tennessee. I have a degree in forestry, and people wonder how I ended up on Wall Street. And the fact was, I was a terrible student, maybe one of the worst in the country as far as forestry goes. And I couldn't get a job anywhere. I had a lot of friends that worked down on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and they all said, you should come down here. You have the personality for it. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And the minute I went down there, I knew I was never going to leave. When I was on the trading floor, I had started out as a clerk, which is basically the connection between customers around the country, and we'd call the trading floor to execute orders in New York Stock Exchange listed stocks like IBM, General Electric, Raytheon. And as I learned that trade, I became pretty good at it, and I became a broker in 1991. You know, in the heyday of Wall Street and the New York Stock Exchange, We were extremely busy, and I used intuition and instinct more than probably any of my partners. I've always relied on the feelings, a gut feeling, not so much the intelligence. There are a lot of brokers on the trading floor that would trade and they would be like a bull in a china shop, meaning that if they had an order,
Mm.
they would just ram through and get the order done. And that was not the way I traded. I was more about doing the right thing for the client. And even if it took a little bit longer and just guile, I guess, that's what I did really well. And the clients enjoyed that. They knew that every time our firm, but especially me, when I had an order, it would take a little bit longer, but they would know that I'm going to do the best I can to get the best prices for them and not just execute the order because we want the revenue. So that was my thing, is I wanted the clients to come back. And there were times where decisions that I made were maybe not in the best interest of our company as far as revenue wise, but it was in the best interest of the client. And my boss at the time he was sensitive to the needs of the paying the bills, but he also knew that at the end of the day, they were going to keep coming back because I did what I thought was the right thing. A lot of my personality and a lot of things developed from working on the trading floor. I learned a lot of things, and coming along, I ended up becoming a mentor. And I think that's one of the key things that I can get out of my career, is that I helped other people, and not even on the trading floor, but I mean, just in life. It was exciting. It was a lot of fun. Crazy people, very, very high energy. But, I'm retired now as a governor of the New York Stock Exchange, and I've been retired for 4 years. So those 4 years I've been working on a lot of different things. I'm affiliated with Natalie Fernandez and Meridian. I'm on the board of advisors, the business advisors in Tucson. I have a very deep connection to Tucson, and I love going there. Every time I go there, I just have such a great time, and I meet such great people, Teresa being one of them. And I've been working with my old partners from one of my firms that I work for. We're working on a movie, and
Ooh.
it's about the trading floor. We can get into that later if you want. 2 kids, divorced, but still very good friends with my ex-wife. And regardless of where I am in my life, if my kids are doing well, I'm doing well. So that's pretty much my story.
I love that. And you said something really powerful. I led by intuition. Would you say that your successes and how you became good at this, what did you call it? Luck or intuition or both?
Well, I think that people don't want to credit luck because they want to credit themselves. And I don't believe that. I
Mm.
think that sometimes you are just lucky. You could catch something in the right spot at the right time. A lot of things, it's about timing. My old expression, which my old boss hated it, but the fact was I'd rather be lucky than good, because when you were lucky, things happen in the
Love that.
positive, in the net positive. So, but I think there was some luck involved. I absolutely do. I think that you make your own luck sometimes as well. Everything is about a confluence of events, right? I mean, that's just the way the world works. And it could be that micro confluence on the trading floor, or it could be the big macro influence of you meeting someone who ends up being something special. You never look a gift horse in the mouth. When you are involved in something and you have that skill and you have the ability to recognize when you are in a lucky position and you take advantage of it. A lot of times people don't recognize when they're in that position. Fortunately, I did. I bought houses at the right time. I mean, I've just been very, very fortunate.
I'm with you. I always feel lucky. Even if a circumstance isn't going my way, I still know that I'm lucky. I've always felt that way. And then you attract more of it.
It does. It feeds on itself. I don't think there's any way that any psychologist, psychiatrist, human behavioralist can actually, they can't explain it. But the fact is that sometimes you're lucky and you don't even know it. And then you look back and you say, if you're driving a car, and 30 seconds later, there was a car accident right behind you. You don't
Mm.
recognize the luck at that point, but you do realize you were lucky that you weren't in that spot 30 seconds ago. So there is something to be said for it. I don't think they'll ever be able to truly explain it. Just be grateful that you were lucky, regarding whatever. Could be anything. Could be you could have went to the store and had a coupon, and that day had double coupon. I mean, there's things that
Mhm.
you don't even realize that you're fortunate. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't recognize is they're being fortunate. A lot of people worry about or complain about the negative, but there's a lot of things that are positive that you should be very grateful for.
Okay, we're all going to say, I am lucky. I'm going to find all the luck. It could almost be a synonym for blessings
No, and
that,
like I had said before, I mean, if you make a mistake and you own up to your mistake and you learn from it, you become a better, whatever it is, better person, better employee, better athlete, better whatever. You can't put the blame on someone else. Sometimes the blame is on someone else, but you still have to own your participation in it,
Mhm.
right? I mean, when you start realizing that you've made this mistake and you don't make it again, now you're creating your own luck actually, because you've recognized your failure at something and you recognize the next route is a better route. So you're going to get the positive results from a negative action. So,
Oh, I love that.
you look at the world and it's like the yin and yang or the pendulum, it swings both ways. You have to put out positive energy. And even if there's a negative situation, try to make a positive out of it. And eventually it will become positive.
What would you say would be a moment or an experience, a choice, or something that you felt regretful of? And were you able to forgive yourself and turn it into, like you said, a lesson and realize you're lucky?
Well, without going into a lot of detail about, I would say, my divorce and what precipitated it, I think that was the thing I regretted most in my life. I don't really have a lot of regrets. I'm actually reading a book, The Midnight
Mm,
Library, and it's about regrets. I would say I learned a lot from it. I learned about relationships. I learned about pain and sorrow, and that's something that I still live with today. And it's been 20 years. I do think I've learned. I do think at this point in my life, I'm a much better person for it. I think I'm a better man, better friend, and hopefully a better father. So you learn from something you regret that happened and the way you carried yourself and what you've done. And to me, I think that I did learn. So doesn't change what happened in the past. You have to live in the present and try to make the future as good as you can. So that's what I'm doing.
that's good. That's good advice. I know a lot of people feel consumed by their regrets.
Hmm.
And so being able to release that and just move on, do better, be better,
Not easy.
right?
It's not easy. And it takes a long time. And the thing is, you have to first address your role in whatever it is you regret.
Mm.
If you realize it's something that an act that you regret doing, and you take responsibility for your role in it, I think that helps start moving you past it. And you may never get past it, but you will at least be able to understand and deal with it in a better way.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that was a little vulnerable moment, but I think it gives us strength when we can be vulnerable with each other and
Yeah.
especially coming from you, Peter on the floor. By the way, that's your nickname, Peter on
Yeah,
the
I
floor, right?
know.
Everyone, that's his nickname. Okay. You also have a blog,
Yes.
a really cool blog.
Yes,
Tell us about
it's called Costa's Corner, and it's on Substack, which is a writer's platform. Monday is a business because a lot of people still ask me questions about the market, about the economy, so on and so forth. Wednesday is more about politics. 15 years ago, half the people didn't even care about politics. All right, Obama's going to get elected. Okay, that was about it. Now it's like two sides, it's like north and south of a magnet. So I write that, and obviously that's brought a lot of attention to my blog because I have certain opinions, and sometimes I may seem a little more forward thinking as far as certain political events, and people will respond. And I really appreciate when I get feedback because I'm 65, but I can still learn. I still have an open
Mm.
mind to politics, to pretty much anything. And then on Friday is more about music. And that's where my mind closes a little bit because I'm old school. So there's a lot of things that I listen to, and I bring up a lot of different ideas about different types of music that I like and certain songs that people probably haven't heard in 30 years. So that's what I write on. And it's fun, gives me an outlet. And I think that some of the things, business wise, I think a lot of people appreciate it because I look at things from a very practical and almost simplistic standpoint, which is something that a lot of business writers don't do. They'll go into these complex situations, and I'd say that unless you have a master's in finance, a lot of the things you read are just unreadable, where I try to make it as simple as possible. And to me, everything can be boiled down very simply.
That's what I love about your work, actually. It's so simple and to the point, and you're so intriguing.
Thank you very much for that because I enjoy it. I do like writing. One of my daughters is an excellent writer. I mean, fantastic writer. And when she reads my stuff, she cracks up because I read like I talk, except for the accent. And I do try
Yeah.
to make the sentences a little longer, but it's a personal note from me. And I don't want to write as like I'm reporting something. I want to write because it's an opinion piece. It's worked so far, and I'm looking to get more subscribers. I'm not going to ever charge, even though that's the whole purpose of the platform, is that if you get to a certain point, you can physically charge people. I'm not going to do that. I mean, first of all, I'm not that consistent. So, if you're going to do something like that,
Yeah.
people, if they're writing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they write every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Well, maybe, sometimes I just don't have anything to say, so I won't write,
You
which
don't force it, right? You
I
let the
don't,
inspiration come?
I mean, if I don't have anything to say, or if there's nothing really intriguing to write about, why would I repeat everything you're watching on CNBC or Fox Business? I just don't, the point of that. I mean, you can get that anywhere. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build up something where people can feel comfortable reading it. And then if they disagree, which I've had people disagree on a couple occasions, and I actually learned, I can't even tell you how much I learned. When I wrote a piece about a year and a half ago, I had about 7 different people all come back with the same response. And I
Mm,
really learned that I was wrong. And I was so happy to learn something new because I always thought of something as X. Well, it wasn't, because I'm always looking at a very simple, keep it simple, stupid, kiss.
I
I
love
love
that.
that, right?
Mhm.
And the way I explained it was very simplistic. And they came back, and I mean, I learned a lot. I'm just going to say that. And what happens with Substack is that their replies show up in the feed. So people can see what the replies were to that particular column. And I think that was probably the one I got the most feedback from, and I learned the most. So to me, it's well worth the time spent if I learn something.
That's what makes you so admirable, that you, like, can take it and be like, "Oh, wow, okay," and grow from there, and
Yeah, I'm not always right. I have an opinion. I don't think anybody's opinion is right or wrong. But if you present a specific case of something as a fact, and somebody comes back to you and say, no, it doesn't work that way, well, good. I learned something. And now I won't reach into something that I probably didn't have enough information or experience or intelligence. Every day I wake up and want to learn something. It doesn't matter. It makes it worthwhile. You get up, you learn something. Man, it was worth getting out of bed today.
oh, I love that. You're so awesome. So, what is the biggest mission with the work that you are putting out in the world?
That's a good question. If I can give people a different perspective on something, whatever it might be, or enlighten them. If I come in with a different opinion and it registers with them and they look at it and say, I never thought of it that way. To me, that's a success. Another thing that I've always done, and I still do it now because I'm on the University of Tennessee's New York City chapter of the alumni group, or whatever they call it. It's got like 9 different names, but I mentor students. There's a lot of things that they need to understand and know going out into the workforce. And that's one of the things I do. I teach French students, which I don't know where it came from, but I teach for some French business school, and they come to New York, and I have like 50 students every spring, and I teach them whatever the course is. I have 2 courses I teach, which are fun. But in those courses, I try to teach these kids the reality of the world. When you get out of school, you have a degree in management. Well, you know what? That just gives you the foundation. Wherever you go, you're going to learn how to do what that company, whoever you work for, is going to teach you. You're not going to be 100% prepared. And a lot of kids don't want to hear that because they think, well, I just spent 4 years of college. Now I'm going to start learning it again. Yeah, you are. College prepares you to learn. That's all it really
Mhm.
does. So that's what I try to teach. The thing is, it's also about giving them confidence, because a kid may get a job at Morgan Stanley and he's like, he doesn't understand 90% of the things that people are talking about. So you don't have to. I mean, you just got out of college. This is the reason you're there. If they expect you to know this already, then there's something wrong with them. Yeah, basic management skills, finance skills, you know what a P&L is, you know what certain things are in business, but there are things that they're be dealing with that they only saw case studies, and in real world case
Mm.
studies, that case studies could be from 6 years ago, and the laws have changed, rules have changed, participants, everything's changed. So I try to give them that understanding that it's going to be like that, you know, for the first minimum of 6 months. And I think it's been very successful.
I love that. Okay, so that being said, what one or two tips do you have for us?
Well, I think there's two things, and I think this can go for anybody in life. Number one is that it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fail at something. Failure is just the foundation for success if you know how to use it. So to me, I think that if you make a mistake, own up to it right away, because anytime any mistake is made and it's not dealt with immediately, it snowballs into something much larger. So it's better to get it out there, you know, in a relationship, at work, whatever. And most people, most times, not that they'll forgive, but they will believe that you have a much higher standard. You know, you want to do better. You're going to learn from this and you're going to move on. That's the first thing. And the second thing I think is, which I wish I would have known years ago, but communication, being able to communicate, I think is vital. You have to be able to talk to someone and listen. Communication is not only about talking, it's about listening. So I think that's a big thing and should be a better listener. And I have to say I'm getting better at it, but I don't think I'm there yet. I may never be there, but I do think that being able to listen and being able to communicate in every aspect, you have to be able to in a relationship and business and work. And no matter what you're doing, you have to be able to communicate and communicate properly.
Oh, I love that. And just being intentional. Oh my gosh, so awesome. I could talk to you forever. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up with my three ending questions
Okay.
per tradition. And Peter, the first question, what is your favorite quote?
All right. Well, it has to do with hard work. And I'm going to read it to you because this always stuck in my head. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I can explain that because that is actually how my whole career was, because I never felt that I was the most talented at anything, but I did work hard, you know, and I think that at the end of the day, that hard work paid off. Whereas I worked with some talented people who didn't work hard, and it always showed that they were not hardworking. So to me, I would rather have a day worth of hard work and go to bed at night tired and not rely on some talent that I didn't work hard to get.
I love that quote. I'm with you. All right. And the next question, what is your favorite book?
Well, I'd have to say my favorite book is The Overstory by Richard Powers. Short stories, but they will all meld together towards the end of the book. And it's so well written and it's beautifully written. And it's about trees. Now, I have a degree in forestry and I love trees. So it's basically the human relationship in a nutshell. It's a human relationship between trees and humanity.
Wow.
But it's in individual vignettes. And it's just an incredible book. I read it once. I'm going to read it again. And I never read a book a second time. I will read that book a second time. I highly recommend it.
Thank you for that. Oh my gosh, so good. The last question, what is one of the biggest lessons life has taught you?
Well, I'd say that your word is your bond. You know, prior to working on Wall Street, I never really thought about that. You grow up on Long Island, you have a bunch of friends, and if you said you were going to do something, you were going to do it, whatever it was. So, you know, that was just the way I grew up. And then when I started working on the trading floor, that was the key element of working on the floor, because everything that was done on the trading floor up until 2002 was by verbal communication. So if I said I was going to do something, or if I said this is what I was going to do, I was going to do that. And that was set in stone because my word was my bond. There was no handshakes. There were no witnesses. It was my word and another broker's word. And we traded. I mean, I traded hundreds and hundreds of millions of shares specifically just on my word. So I always felt that if I give you my word on something, you can take that to the bank. So my word is my bond. And that is something I think everyone should actually practice some
Mhm.
sort of that. If you say something, you mean it, and you have the ability to complete whatever it is you've mentioned, then you should do it. You shouldn't back away from it.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please download, rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Also, be sure to visit my website at teresacaesar.com to check out my inspirational merch, connect to my social accounts, and much more. May you continue to be filled with wisdom, inspiration, and consciousness. Otherwise, friends, I will be back for another episode of Heart to Talk.